The recently surging popularity of Cardano projects seems to be ushering in the next stage of thinking among these projects. That's no longer just about how they gain widespread adoption, but also about how they achieve longer term financial sustainability. In those details, I think there will be some devils. Ready? Let's go. We're going to discuss royalties and their role in the sustainability of projects, specifically in the context of the new Pavia royalties. On that sustainability front, we'll also discuss the Ethereum community recently discovering that sustainable personal passive income already exists in Cardano staking. The hilarious fee disparity between Ethereum and Cardano, given their similar volumes, and the recently published simulated rate curve from Liqwid. We've seen some really incredible project launches within the Cardano ecosystem. We saw launches of projects like Pavia at a very low mint price compared to the values we're seeing now. Even in their second land sale, it seemed like they could have charged much more. Then on the DeFi side, we've seen the launch of assets within a project ecosystem like Liqwid, giving free tokens to everyone in their Discord, which turned out to be pretty valuable. We're about to see the Sunday Swap initial stake pool offering, where they're not taking our ADA away from us. They're just distributing these tokens out basically for free. It's not a fundraising device by the project. And of course, in the case of all these fungible DeFi asset, I don't want to call them offerings, but distributions, one of the reasons, let's be realistic. One of the reasons this is happening is because they got with their lawyers and their lawyers told them, hey, if you accept anything of value in exchange for these tokens, it changes the outlook for the Howey test, which we've talked about on this channel many times. But at the same time, they're in kind of a catch-22 because they need to decentralize the ownership of their assets. They need for their assets to be out in the hands of the Cardano public, because getting to decentralization is perceived as one of the essential ingredients in avoiding being called a security under the Howey test. So the end result has been great for us as Cardano consumers. People got free Liqwid tokens if they were part of the Discord. People are about to get basically free Sunday Swap tokens. You might argue that there might be a cost if you end up having to be in an oversaturated pool, so you won't get quite as much ADA as if you stayed in a non-Sunday Swap pool. In some cases, I don't know if they're all going to be saturated, if only some of them are going to be saturated. I even saw some talk in the Sunday Swap Discord about how the stake pool operators were chosen for the ISO, but it was not dictated to them how many pools they could or could not have. So maybe we'll see Sunday Swap initial stake pool offering pool operators opening up additional pools if they see saturation. We just don't know yet. We'll find out over the course of those 5 epochs. A lot of these launches have been great for us as Cardano community members. But here's the thing we haven't talked about. In the case of a lot of these DeFi platforms that have launched, there's some built-in means for the platform to continue to create revenue for itself, to continue to fund itself. Because I think what we've seen, the story of, kind of tech startups in general, and I do consider these all to be tech startups of sorts. They're crypto startups, which is a very specialized niche subgenre, but they are tech startups. And one of the things is with these types of startups, the development never really ends. If you don't want your project or platform or protocol to lose relevance, it kind of needs to continue evolving. And that's nowhere more true than in crypto. Crypto moves extremely fast. Crypto is like a lightning bolt arcing through the sky. It's very fast moving technology, as we've seen just in the last decade. So these platforms are going to need to continue to evolve, and continued evolution requires continued development, which requires paying developers. and everybody else involved in the project. There's a lot of other people involved in these projects as well, and they all need to continue getting paid in order for these projects to continue to exist past a certain point in the timeline. When the whatever money was raised in these initial launches runs out, there needs to be some form of sustainable revenue coming into the platform. And in the case of these DeFi projects, that exists. You've got trading fees or lending fees of the platform or whatever it is. There's some kind of a, some number of points are kind of carved out for the platform in a lot of cases. And we already know with a lot of these DeFi projects, while they might have founders and teams behind their founding, eventually most of them are going to become DAOs, or at least their stated intention seems to be to become DAOs in most of the cases, which is great. But there's always some means for some money to come back into the DAO to continue developing the project. At least there should be if they want to continue evolving, as we've described. In the case of the DeFi projects. In the case of these some of these other types of projects, like metaverses, what we have is we have an initial launch with a minting and sell of various types of NFTs, usually plots, sometimes additional coins. In the case of Pavia, the coins were just a free airdrop. Again, another awesome, launch element for us as Cardano community members, at least Pavia community members. But it's a finite amount of money. So in the case of Pavia, we had an initial mint, which was a very small mint fee. It didn't raise them a lot of money. It seems like, if you look at it as a whole chunk of money, it seems like a lot. But when you're talking about building out a whole operating, working metaverse, it's not that much money. Tech startups can burn through an incredible amount of money in an incredibly short amount of time. I think anybody who's worked in tech startups has seen this firsthand. With these projects that are minting virtual land parcels as NFTs, you've got that chunk of money. But at some period on the timeline, that runs out. And there's got to be some means to fund the project beyond that. And of course, ideally, we'd all like to think that there will be, these economies that develop within the metaverses, and the platform running the metaverse will be able to, take a chunk out of those types of transactions, just like the DeFi protocols do. But that's so far down the road, that may be beyond that point X on the timeline when they run out of the money from the minting of the assets involved in the metaverse. So they've got to have some means to sustain themselves. In the case of Pavia, it looks like it's going to be a 2% royalty that's been agreed upon with the leading marketplaces. This little announcement says, after lengthy discussions, sellers will be notified in advance of listing their properties for sale. They can always choose not to sell it there if they don't like that, find some other way to sell their property. So of course, I always lean towards sort of like the super open market, capitalist, Adam Smith hidden hand kind of conception of how markets work. But in the case of projects like this, I think it may be one of the only routes to sustainability. I think even the magnitude of this royalty, there are multiple ways to approach it. I think a lot of people look at it as like, hey, if I sell an NFT for 100 ADA, I don't mind kicking back 2 ADA to the creators of that NFT. But then other people will look at it like, hey, at least in North America, the most normal real estate agents can get away with for charging half, a side of a transaction. If there are two sides, the buyer and the seller, and they each have their own real estate agent. In North America, the most they can really get away with charging in most cases is 3%. And that's getting kicked down because of technology. Now it's kind of between 2 and 3 in a lot of cases, but the most they can charge is 3%. In a lot of cases, they can only get away with something even closer to 2 now because of tech startups starting to displace, a lot of the work that real estate agents are doing. So if you look at it from that perspective, you say, hey, they're taking a royalty of 2%, almost the same as an actual real estate agent would charge for real land in real life. And in the case of the actual real estate agent, there are a lot of real hard costs there, driving out of the property, showing the property, doing all the paperwork, probably showing up to the closing, all of those things. There's like actual human work hours and hard costs involved in all that. And a realtor, a real estate agent would only charge, 2-3%, something like that. And here we have a 2-3% fee tacked on to a digital sell of a digital asset where the hard costs are different. I know there's big hard costs in actually developing a metaverse, but I think people are going to approach it from both perspectives. Some people are going to say 2%, that's nothing. I don't care. I'll pay 2 ADA on a 100 ADA transaction. Other people are going to say, wow, we're starting to look like the traditional land sales industry here with a royalty that approaches what's charged for one side of an actual in real life real estate transaction. Of course, people will vote with their wallets, and it'll be really easy to gauge the market's appetite for these 2% royalties by how often people try to evade them. But I think here's the most interesting part of all this. As we've known kind of all along, Pavia is going to have its own on-platform marketplace for Pavia lands. And they say here, we will bring everyone a low fee on the platform marketplace as soon as possible, making these royalties elsewhere much less relevant. So we're actually going to have a really interesting economic picture unfolding where some of these other leading marketplaces are going to be trying to charge their own sort of marketplace transaction fees, their own platform fees, their own little, subset of points they take out of the transaction. Then apparently a bunch of them have agreed to this 2% royalty for Pavia on top of that. Then we'll have Pavia launching its own on-platform marketplace where they could, either charge low transaction fees or their 2% royalty, but it's all going back to Pavia, minus any vendor costs of their own they have in performing their marketplace role. But it seems like what's going to happen, as Pavia themselves say in this notice, we will bring everyone a low fee on the platform marketplace as soon as possible, making these royalties elsewhere much less relevant. So it appears there's going to be a lower cost in this on-platform marketplace. I wonder when the rubber hits the road, when these other leading marketplaces have agreed to this 2% royalty for Pavia, when they see that they're not getting any Pavia sales, if they're still going to be willing to try to charge their own platform fees plus the 2% Pavia fee when Pavia is competing with them as a marketplace and maybe charging a much lower fee plus the 2% or just a much lower fee and no 2% royalty whatsoever. That's going to be interesting to observe from the sidelines. In news about things that we've known were going to happen for a long time, here we see a thread started by an obvious ETH supporter, a .eth person. They say, everybody talks about passive income for life. Show me a passive income source in crypto that has lasted longer than 6 months for you. And don't say ETH staking, which was almost like an instant trigger for people to come in and say Cardano staking. And in fact, immediately you start seeing Cardano replies. Everybody's like, Cardano, I've been staking in Cardano forever, much longer than 6 months, and it's been highly sustainable. I think we're going to see a lot of this. I think honestly, the amount of hate and vitriol directed towards Cardano has really pulled the blinders over the Ethereum community, and they really don't understand that a lot of these things already exist in Cardano. Another thing that shockingly already exists in Cardano is not losing all your gains to network fees. Here we see that the 24-hour ETH and ADA volumes are very similar. The 24-hour ETH volume, according to this Twitter post, is 7.5 billion, whereas Cardano is at 7.3 billion, so very close. However, the Ethereum network fees were $46.6 million during this time, while the Cardano fees, 82,000. This is a comical disparity. They're doing the same volume, and I think all of us would argue you get a much better experience on the Cardano network, but the fees are extraordinarily lower. When I say the experience is better, in a lot of ways, it's not arguably better. It's objectively better. When you have a failed transaction, do you want to pay for it or not? Back on the purely positive side of Cardano Metaverse news, it looks like Pavia is having a meeting tomorrow to determine how to have the fairest possible land sale number 3 possible. I think we all know there's a certain number of parcels left in Pavia. I think it's 40,000, 100,000 is the cap apparently. And that sale is going to be happening sometime in Q1. It looks like the meeting to figure out how to have the fairest sale possible is going down tomorrow, and they tell us sale will likely be early February. So now we have a much more concrete timeline on when this is actually going to take place. Finally, if you were curious, what kind of rates are we looking at for Liqwid here? I think you will find this interesting. Liqwid published what they're calling an interest rate curve simulator to model supply, borrow, repay, and withdraw actions. And it has some actual rates in here. Again, these sounds like these are just simulated modeled rates, so nothing you could rely on in any way. But it's kind of interesting. I mean, we have supplier rates in between. It looks to me like 4% and 15%, and borrower rates in between. What is that? 7% and 24%. So I guess I should have said the supplier rates appear to be in between 0 and 15, and the borrower rates are in between 7 and 24. So who knows if this is what it'll look like in practice, but interesting even just to see these modeled rates. I hope you are having a great week. We are inching closer and closer to the Sunday swap launch, which is probably going to be frustrating because of congestion, but I think it's a really important threshold we're about to cross, and I'm excited for it. Hope tomorrow is a great day for you, and I will talk to you then.